Good morning, Springfield. It's so good to be with you today. I'm so glad you're joining us. And if you're a regular attendee of Good Morning Springfield, you know that when we are together, I say Good Morning Springfield and you say, and that's where you would say good morning. And if you're saying it at home or you're saying it in your workplaces, pay no attention to your coworkers who are looking sideways at you right now. Just get into the moment. We want you to have a great time with us today. My name's Matt Morrow. I'm president of the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce. So glad you're here. And as always, we would encourage you to please share what you're learning today on Good Morning Springfield with our hashtag Good Morning SGF. Please use that in all of your shares. And as has been the case for the last few months as we've joined you virtually, you can, of course, share the actual broadcast on Facebook Live or YouTube Live today. So again, that hashtag is hashtag Good Morning SGF. It's so great to be with you virtually for the July edition of Good Morning Springfield, and very, very glad that you can join us, and so pleased to be coming to you today from BKD's amazing in-office studio they have generously allowed us to utilize today. It's just across the street from the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce office, and we're very, very grateful to the BKD team for providing us with all the technical support necessary to bring you this live stream of Good Morning Springfield. Our original plan, had we been meeting together in person today, was to gather at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds and Event Center. That's our monthly sponsor for this month's event. Although we aren't able to be there in person, I would like to take a few moments to recognize and thank General Manager Aaron Owen and his outstanding team at the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds. The Fairgrounds and Event Center has stepped up as a uniquely supportive partner in our community during this pandemic. Their facilities have been used as a warehouse for emergency management. They've served as a coronavirus testing site and have also provided regional food pantry support for storage. As always, they are an absolute asset to our community and so valuable to us. I want you to know as well that the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds is a privately owned entity, and it receives no city, county, or state financial support. A lot of people don't realize that. And we're just several weeks away now, just a few weeks away from the 2020 Ozark Empire Fair, and this year's theme is Making Magic. The news we are hearing is that the fair will run from July 30th to August 8th. For more information about summer's biggest party, for the schedule, safety information, and to purchase tickets, visit them online at ozarkempirefair.com. As mentioned, we're here at the BKD studio this morning, and I'd like to take a moment to thank our Good Morning Springfield series presenting sponsor this year, BKD Wealth Advisors. BKD Wealth Advisors is a national wealth management firm offering services for families and individuals. They deliver independent, professional expertise that puts their clients' interests first. BKD Wealth Advisors has been recognized numerous times as one of the nation's top wealth management firms. And so I just want to offer a big thank you to BKD Wealth Advisors for your continued support of Good Morning Springfield. And I know right here in this studio you've done so much during this crisis to support and educate the broader business community. I have benefited from that. I know our members have as well, and certainly your clients have also. And so first up this morning, a member of the BKD team is going to join us for providing some additional insight into some issues that are directly impacting business right now. And so we want to go to partner Erica Smith, who is here with me now, and we're going to visit just a little bit about a pretty substantial update for us focused on issues surrounding the CARES Act funding. And so welcome, Erica. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's great to be here. Good morning, Springfield.
So good. Now, listen, the CARES Act information is changing even now,
yes,
all the time, even this week. So I'd love if you would be willing to just share a little bit of an update with our members on where we are, on some of the key elements of CARES Act funding, what's still available, and maybe a couple of reminders that we need to be thinking about as well. So what's the state of the CARES Act right now?
Sure. There's plenty of moving parts, that's for sure. I know all of your members have been dealing with that and working with their advisors over the last several months. Probably the most popular, or one that those that are taking most advantage of, is the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program. And just as you and I were talking about this morning, it was ended on June 30th, but has support in the House and the Senate for extension through August 8th.
Right. We saw both of those bodies move this week, unanimous consent to extend it. I haven't seen word yet whether the president has signed that yet, but I assume that's coming.
Right. I would assume, too, that it's got support on both sides, that he will probably sign that, but I think it's on his desk. I haven't seen anything saying he won't.
Right.
So, if you haven't taken advantage of that yet, certainly it's worth considering. In addition to that, the Congress passed in June changes to that program if you have already received your loan. They were generally business favorable provisions that increased the amount of time that you have to spend the funds. So originally your loan had to, the funds had to have been spent within 8 weeks of receiving them. That has been extended to 24 weeks. So you have 24 weeks from the date that you received your money to spend that on payroll, mortgage, rent, and utilities. And they also changed and expanded how much you have to spend on payroll versus those other items. Before, you had to spend 75% of those funds on payroll. That has been reduced to 60%. So the remaining 40 will be spent on your mortgage payments, your rent, and your utilities.
Now, in theory, you could spend more than that on that. It just would no longer be forgivable
Right.
at that point.
Yeah. So if you may go well and above those items in the 24 weeks, now that they've extended it. There was some real concern originally in the 8 weeks that you may not hit, because of staffing changes, you may not hit those percentages in 8 weeks, which is why they've extended it.
Right. And I mean, both of those adjustments really helpful to business. We heard from a lot of businesses, as I'm sure you did, that flexibility was desperately needed because business models are so different. They're just not all the same in terms of how they're structured.
Sure. Yeah. There's been some folks that have been able to get right back to work after a short time off, and then there's others that are still really struggling to get back up to where they were pre-COVID.
So
certainly.
a lot of attention when CARES Act first came out on the PPP loan program, and of course when it was renewed as well, because there was additional funding that was necessary. But there are other really valuable tools, both in the CARES Act and outside the CARES Act, for business that maybe have received a little bit less attention but still are available for people out there. Could you talk a little bit about some of those?
Sure, yeah. The other loan program that's through the SBA that has gotten some attention but has not been used as widely is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That is through the SBA. That's how it differs from PPP. You don't go to your bank for that loan. You apply through the SBA. It is still available. It had originally run out of funds. It was reinstated on June 15th. It's a working capital loan. It does not have a forgiveness piece like PPP, but is a long-term, can be up to 30-year term loan at a low interest rate. So that's, and you can combine that with your PPP given certain requirements. So that's certainly something, if you are now past your PPP and maybe you need some additional funding, that's a source to look at.
Good, very favorable terms, and
Yes.
again, so long as you're not using it for the same thing you were using a Paycheck Protection Loan for, you're
Right.
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. What else is out there?
Sure, and then the one that really probably is not getting a lot of press, but can certainly be valuable, is the Employee Retention Tax Credit. You cannot combine this with the PPP program. This would be for businesses who did not take advantage of that program. But if you are an eligible employer who pays wages to qualified employees, then you can get a $5,000 tax, up to $5,000 tax credit for those wages that you pay your employees. It's a 50% credit, and it goes and gets your payroll tax. It's not an income tax credit, it's a payroll tax credit.
And that's per employee,
Right.
and refundable tax credit too, right?
Yes, it is. It's refundable, so you can actually get an advance on it, because you could be in a position where your tax credit would far exceed the actual payroll tax.
Right.
And so you can apply now for that if you're eligible.
Okay,
So,
great.
to be an eligible employer, it's important to note you have to either have been closed due to a governmental order, so that would have applied to several businesses, in the last, quarter up through June, especially in Springfield and Greene County. Or you have to have a significant decline in your gross revenue. So those are tests that you need to make sure that you meet with your accountant.
And there are other tax considerations, I'm sure, that people have to be thinking about as well during this time.
Yeah, there's a couple of other benefits that came out. Actually, one of them was a tax glitch, so we called that they actually got fixed as part of the CARES Act, which is nice. So for those businesses, especially in the retail and restaurant space, if you had done renovations or built a new building, the TICJA from 2018 had intended that you could expense those items, but the law didn't get written exactly right. So they fixed that glitch. So certainly if you're in those industries, if you've done a lot of renovations, you've done new infill, those are probably deductible now with this fix. And then the second piece of that is that can generate tax losses for you, which can now be carried back to offset
Okay.
prior year's income.
So that can be, for a lot of businesses, that could be very helpful right now
Yes.
too, obviously.
Definitely.
Okay. Great, great. Well, there are, of course, other things. Business goes on, right? We still have
Right.
to, even in the midst of this unprecedented pandemic, there are some things that you just have to know, and one of them is the certainty of a couple of things, death and taxes, and the tax deadline's coming, right?
That's right. They did not extend the tax deadline yet. Now, like I said, they could change their mind. I don't think they'll change their mind on this one. They came out with an announcement a couple days ago. So they're sticking with the July 15th deadline. That is the deadline for payment. Now, you can certainly still extend your individual tax returns and your corporate tax returns, but as of today, right now, your payments are still due in a couple of weeks.
Well, Erica, I just want to thank you so much for coming in here today and spending some time with us, and also just for the leadership in our community, and not just in our community. BKD, of course, is this major influencer and information source for clients all across the country. And so, thank you for taking the time to do that, and just for working with so many. I know these are unprecedented times for you and your team as well.
Yes, they are, and we're very excited to help our business community. It's been a rough go, and we want to, everybody has powered through, and it's been really impressive.
Well, they have a lot coming at them right now, as you know well, but it's so grateful to you for sharing your expertise on all of this. So thanks so much, Erica.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, I'm so glad to have that update for you, and of course there are many moving parts as they continue to come at us. We want to make sure that you have the latest information, and great resources like our friends at BKD can provide that. And as you know, if you are a regular attendee and participant in Good Morning Springfield, part of the real value of this program is regular updates that we get on the latest key information for business and for our community from the city of Springfield, Greene County, Springfield Public Schools, and the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to hear from some of those. And joining me now is Deputy City Manager of the City of Springfield, Maurice Jones. Maurice, so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, and good morning. How are you?
Doing very, very well. And I think I know that your hands are so full and have continued to be, and probably in ways you never could have imagined. And I know the city's been helping to navigate a lot during this pandemic. There's still been a great deal going on in terms of regular business during this time too. So you have the pandemic and you have regular work happening too. So maybe some of the updates on things that are happening in those things that we count on from the city, public works, construction, all those things. What's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about some of the really exciting things we have going on. One thing in particular that we were doing before COVID was, of course, the Grand Avenue Corridor Project.
Right.
That's the better known as the BUILD grant. It's a $21 million grant by the federal government that allows us to look at the whole Grand Avenue corridor and begin to reimagine it in a different way. So that area has something that we have begun preliminary stance to begin to take a look at what potentially can happen along various nodes of that corridor. So there we have some opportunities that we never imagined before. We're starting to have meetings. We're beginning to have conversations. We're trying to get community impact and look at just different ways where we can look at the economic impact of that entire corridor on the overall city as a whole.
Well, I tell you, anytime you can get $21 million in outside federal dollars to come in and help with a major opportunity in the community, I mean, this is a really transformative opportunity for Springfield.
Matt, it's catalyst. It's a catalyst project for us. We see it as a way for us to really begin to tie in some other opportunities on downtown core as well. There's a loop tied to the corridor at its base, but then how does it connect to Jordan Creek, and what does that mean? And ultimately, we're looking at what does it mean for us from a sense of place that is very important from a city perspective, because we want to make sure that we are the number one place to be in this corridor. So how do we begin to look at how these things connect? How do we tie investment, both public and private, and how do we leverage these dollars in a way that we can begin to branch out to other aspects of the community?
I know your background, Maurice, is in economic development, and anybody who didn't know that hears it, I think, as you talk, and I just love it. I love how you see these. No, don't let it grow. Let it go. It's good. We love hearing it. Love hearing the excitement in your voice when you think about what a well-timed strategic public investment can do to really catalyze private investment. You see a lot of opportunity for private investment in that part of town?
Absolutely. The partnership there is going to be tremendous. And so for us, what we want to do is make sure we leverage that in the right way so that we can actually get an opportunity to really expound upon that. So what does that mean for us? And so we see that this is going to be the catalyst for us going forward. But it's perfect timing because it rolls into our work in the comprehensive plan.
Right.
And we start looking at Springfield as a whole, and what does that mean for us from a community perspective looking 20 years into the future. So this is a great time for us. The city's done a tremendous amount of work. Our planning department under Mary Lily Smith has done a tremendous amount of work in trying to leverage some of the ideas that have come out of the work that's been done on the comprehensive plan thus far. So it's perfect timing for us, and it's a great way to leverage a lot of ideas from the community, a lot of public input, private input, and see how we can take that investment and really begin to move Springfield in a whole different direction.
Meanwhile, things like transportation and construction and all those pieces, those never really stopped, right? So people still get building permits. They're still moving along with planning and zoning and all those pieces as well.
We are. One of the things that we're also focusing on is trying to make sure we streamline our building and development services. I mean, for us, it's an extremely important process. We want to make it easier for our developers to come in and get their permits and begin to continue what they've been doing. One of the things that's been really critical for us is to really reevaluate how we operate as an organization and how we can be seen as your partner as opposed to someone who's necessarily just regulating. So we want to be your partner when it comes to the development side of things. And so that's some of the things that we've been trying to work very, very diligently on. Staff has done a tremendous job with that. We just want to continue that work. Tremendous amount of pressure with COVID-19, having really put an unbelievable, unprecedented amount of pressure on people, but our staff has handled it extremely well, and they've done a great job to this point.
Well, and thank you for your work as well, Maurice. You've done a tremendous job. I know it's a lot of things none of us expected or planned on, but really, really grateful for it. And so, thanks so much for joining us for today, too.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Matt. It's great to see you too.
Good to see you too, right?
Absolutely.
In person.
Take care.
Mask up and get out of here. All right. So, thank you so much for joining us, Maurice. I know the city's been doing a lot to navigate this pandemic. Still a lot going on in terms of regular business, just like we have been discussing as well. And to help us kind of bring us up to speed on some of the other part of what's happening in city business, and there's a lot, is Deputy City Manager Colin Quigley, who's joining me now. He's here with an update from the city. Colin, welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning, Matt. There's some additional updates from the city this morning.
Yeah.
From our police department, we have a new webpage called Where We Stand.
Right.
And it's dedicated to transparency, and we hope that this will foster greater trust and open communication with our citizens. And on the webpage, you can find information compiled about SPD policies, tactics, the data, just really all more information, all in one location. It's been there, but we put it in one spot so citizens can see that. It's on our webpage at springfieldmo.gov and on the department's webpage.
That's a really valuable step.
It is. With fire, moving on to fire, we've got an update on level property tax projects for the fire department. Citizens passed a couple of years ago, the construction documents for Fire Station 4 and 13. They're currently being reviewed by the department and the city, and we're preparing to go out for bid. We anticipate those bids to be going out for those two fire stations, 4 and 13, this month with an August bid opening. Fire Station 7, which is on Sunshine, that project for demolition and construction is scheduled with the 2023 bond package. And Fire Station 14, which is would be a new station, it's scheduled for the 2026 bond package. At the airport, operations at Springfield Branson National Airport continue to be impacted by COVID-19, obviously. Airlines were running about 40% of the normal schedule in June. And July, which is the month we're in now, we're looking at least the schedule show jumping to a 60% capacity.
That would be great news.
It is. Obviously, the airline services were significantly cut, but other parts like air cargo, emergency medical transport, general aviation, military aviation continued. And so we still see that activity there. Business travel is still a little weak at the airport. Leisure travel is what's showing steady gains right now. Of course, the airport was helped by $9 million of CARES Act funding.
Yes.
That was very important for the airport. Of course, they're doing safety measures at the airport, including hand sanitizing stations throughout the terminal. Plexiglass shields are in place. Social distancing dots are on the floor at the counters. All employees in the terminal are required to wear masks. So hands cleaning, of course, is taking place at the airport as well.
Colin, I know you work really closely with all of these departments and many others as well. I want to touch on something you just started with there as far as your work with Police Chief Paul Williams and the work that's happening to try to increase just transparency along the way. I've been so impressed with his efforts, even starting 4 years ago, and probably before that, but starting 4 years ago in the aftermath of Ferguson, to gather people on a very intentional way in a very regular interval, and to really hear that feedback, it has changed some of the way our police department operates.
It has, absolutely. And shortly after the Ferguson incident, we took the justice report, sat down with a group of minority community members, and went through the justice report to make sure we're doing it right here and to get feedback and input from the group. And then the chief continued that Citizens Advisory Group and added members to that group, and they meet monthly and have for several years now, continue to do that, to review policies, talk about what's going on in the department, to continue that openness and dialogue with our community members.
And now you and I both sit in on that group and are a part of it as well. And where it really came home to me was when there were some reforms that are being discussed right now that are so important to a lot of police departments to adopt. And we sit down and look and we say, well, yeah, really over the course of the last few years, each of these has been adopted here, and it's been adopted in a way that was collaborative and use that input from the community to get there.
Absolutely, yes. And on that Where We Stand web page, that landing page, all that information is on there. It's easy to see, very transparent. Hopefully it's very beneficial for the community.
Well, I certainly encourage people to check that out. Thank you so much, Colin. Thanks for your leadership and for the work that you're doing on behalf of our community as well.
Okay, thank you, man.
You bet. Well, it is a great time now for us to do what we, again, would try to do if we were all in person, hear a little bit more, a little bit deeper dive on some of these issues that are affecting our city and our county, Springfield Public Schools, and the Chamber of Commerce. And so next up, we're going to invite in here Greene County Presiding Commissioner Bob Dixon. He's going to join me for an update. But before we let you get started, Bob, I want to take just a moment of maybe some personal privilege here to thank you and the other members of Greene County Commission for your leadership and work during this crisis. You have just exhibited this tremendous spirit of collaboration with community partners, and your efforts to seek input from business industry members as you've made decisions that are going to affect those businesses. And I just can't tell you how greatly I appreciate that, and our members do as well. So what do you have by way of update for us today? A lot going on with the county.
There's a lot going on, and I want to reiterate what you just said. The collaboration in this community is always great, but we've taken it to a new level. Appreciate you, the chamber, the city, all of our partners. There's a lot going on at the county. I'm pleased to give a little update. While we continue to monitor COVID cases and the situation, not only in Greene County but also in our region, it's worth noting that back on June the 12th, the county passed a unanimous resolution encouraging and recommending the wearing of, a lot of safety precautions, but specifically mentioned was the wearing of masks if you're going to be within 6 feet of other people. And of course that is an increasing educational need in our community. Related to COVID, the county has also appointed Dr. Lyle Foster as the grants administrator for the CARES Act funds. You know that the state appropriated $34 million of federal funds to Greene County for reimbursement into the community for direct COVID-related expenses. And that work is rapidly progressing. Dr. Foster, of course, was off to a running start before he even really got an office and a phone. But we're excited to see that coming together. We've established a CARES button on our website at greenecountymo.gov so folks can get all of the latest information there. And we've got all the most recent FAQs from the Treasury Department. Stuff seems to be changing very rapidly. It's kind of a fluid situation. But the grant application process is being quickly developed. We'll have an application ready to announce very soon. And those will be reviewed, the applications will be reviewed by a sizable number of community members around the county that will be announced very soon. The CARES Act Advisory Council is what we're calling that. We've also got some really exciting news that it's always fun to see our Stellar County folks receiving recognition in the community. And at a time like this, we can all use encouragement, but I'd like to point out just a few. I'm very grateful for my colleagues, John Russell and Harold Bench. And, Commissioner Bench is going to be retiring at the end of the year. And it was fun. We gathered on the lawn of the courthouse on Flag Day, where we surprised him with Sons of American Revolution, presented him with the Silver Good Citizenship Award for over 60 years in public service and dedication.
That's great.
He's also been recently recognized with the Lifetime Achievement in Business Award by the Springfield Business Journal, and it'll be exciting to see, as we celebrate him through the rest of the year, what else happens. But for Commissioner Bench. Additionally, Greene County was just recognized by Tyler Technologies with a Public Sector Excellence Award for its success in applying that technology that we utilize. And it deals with some of the specific things were organizational excellence, productivity, improved responsiveness, and most notably the better financial forecasting and budgeting that technology has allowed us to develop. Our Greene County Collector, Leah Betts, was also named recently to the Dynamic Dozen Employees of the Year by SBJ. And Sheriff Arnott he made the 2020 list of Men of the Year. So it's worth noting that we're very grateful for all of our deputies and sheriff's personnel and their leadership, particularly at this time. But what an exciting time. And I understand that Greene County will be receiving an award for economic impact at some point here very soon. So a lot going on, and of course our progress at the jail continues as with all of these other things going on. And as I've told several folks in the community, with all things COVID, I just want to get back to building a jail, but they're still building it. It's ongoing.
Remember
It's
when we
happening.
thought building a jail was a big project?
I guess I'd like to just focus on
It
that.
is a
but
big
we have
project.
a lot going on.
It is a big
So,
project, many big projects. But
Yeah.
you're right. It would be nice to be able to get back to that work, and I think it feels like we're headed there. And the good news that I hear when I hear you provide this update and the others that we've heard this morning is, and it's important to remind people, while a lot of attention is rightly focused on our responses to COVID and responses to other significant issues that are taking a lot of public attention, and rightly so, that the regular business that all of us count on our local governments to carry out and do, it's not like that just got put on hold. It still continues, still proceeds quietly under the radar, doing those things that we count on you to do.
Well, that's true. And you know what's I know many of us have said this, but what's so impressive is the tremendous tenacity that so many in our community have. We deal with some of that in government, but really it's the men and women who operate our small businesses, who make our schools function, who deliver the health care, and they've been able to persevere with some of the greatest of difficulties, and we're extremely grateful.
It's inspiring to see.
It is.
I say it often that innovation is in the DNA of entrepreneurs, and you see it on full display right now. And it's exciting and inspiring to see.
It is.
Thank you so much, Bob, for your leadership and for the work that you do on behalf of all of us at Greene County.
Thank you.
Well, as we chart this course for recovery and continue to move forward, it's going to be continuing to be very important to have leadership like those that we've heard from today and others. And so we're going to hear an update now from Springfield Public Schools. And joining us is Dr. Nicole Holt, the district's new Deputy Superintendent of Academics. Welcome, Dr. Holt. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Matt.
And thank you for being here. What I believe is, technically speaking, your second day on the job, although I've seen you a lot lately and you've been on the job. You've been cheating. You've been on the job sooner than that.
I mean, that might be accurate, yes. But I am very excited to be occupying this new role with SBS. I've had a lot of seats on the Springfield Public School bus, being a graduate of SPS and then spending time in a classroom at Robeson, leader across the system for 9 years, and just wrapping up, some time as the Director of Professional Learning. But so excited about this new opportunity to continue to serve our
Well,
community.
I'm not going to let you skip over that because I think you've got a great story to tell, and I want to talk a little bit about it even before we get into the updates from the schools, because you're a local product.
Yep.
You're a product of Springfield Public Schools as well, and just hearing that background story. So before we get the update, tell us a little bit about you and how you landed here.
So I'm a Springfield native. My family's been here my entire life, and like I said, Field Elementary, Pershing Middle School, and a Glendale High School graduate. So had the opportunity to pursue a minority teaching scholarship, a partnership between SPS and our local universities, which landed me at Evangel, and was able to pursue my degree in early childhood and elementary ed, and had the opportunity to start my career at Robeson Elementary, where I spent my first 5 years teaching first grade. And so that was an extremely valuable experience, set me up to be successful as a building principal, which was my next pursuit with SPS. I spent 6 years at Holland Elementary, and then 3 years at Sherwood, opened that new beautiful building on the southwest side of town, had that great experience and opportunity before I headed over to the district side of the house and have been leading the professional learning ship for the last 2 years before this new opportunity. So excited to support continued growth around academic programming and SPS for this new role, official day 2.
That's right. Well, I'm excited to have you in that role. I know you do a tremendous job, already doing a tremendous job with it. So a lot going on with the district. Can you talk to us just a little bit about some of those highlights?
Yeah, so I think our summer highlights are just that we wrapped the first session of Explore up, and we will launch into session 2 on July 6th. We had about 6,100 kids enrolled for June, and now about 6,000 enrolled for July, again, which will start Monday, and 2,700 of those chose a seated option. So we are extremely excited to welcome some teachers and kiddos back to our buildings, and we just issued our health and wellness guidelines this week to those families. So just excited to have kids back in school buildings and teachers back in school buildings for a seated opportunity.
May I just say that as a parent, yeah, that's exciting for us too.
You're happy as well. Good.
That's right.
Good. And we've continued our service of providing meals to students and families throughout the summer. So we've got those meals available for 7 days a week, pickups on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And we're proud to say that since the start of this COVID pandemic in March, we've been able to provide 650,000 meals to families and students. That's really the work of our teams internally and our partners to make sure that we're meeting that need.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And so, even in light of what's happening around us, we've still continued to be able to deliver our bond projects on time and on budget. Those are important pieces. I think super exciting things happening, nearing completion projects would be, Delaware, Sunshine, and obviously the new Ada Fulbright Early Childhood Center that we're going to be opening in August. So looking forward to that. Had a great turnout for the groundbreaking at Boyd just a couple weeks ago, and Jarrett Middle School as well, with some extensive renovations coming this year at Hillcrest and Williams Elementary. So just continuing to move that work even in a time of crisis. So that's been very powerful and exciting. I think we're excited about graduation, which is we're going to be, we had about 96% of our graduates say, yes, we're planning to be with you on August 6th and 7th to honor those graduates, have a ceremony, and be a part of that, which is going to be exciting and wonderful to see those students cross the graduation line, which is, of course, always our goal. And then just the plans are well underway for reentry, which I know is what everybody wants to hear and talk about. We're looking forward to August 24th and welcoming our kiddos back. We have 4 work teams that are working right now to help us with logistics and planning around several facets of the school day and work. They've been meeting, and we'll wrap that up about the middle of July, and so we'll be forthcoming with our plans very soon for what it will look like to welcome our students back. We were happy that when we surveyed parents and teachers, which we've done, about 92% said, yes, we want to come back in the fall, and they listed, obviously, CDC and health department guidelines as really important to helping them feel comfortable navigating that.
So you said it so well, because we all need and want the schools to open and have kids in them in the fall, and I can't imagine the kind of work that's going in right now to just get ready for that under
Yeah.
these circumstances.
It is, and you know, it's been important to us that we engage our stakeholders in that we ask for feedback, because we know the current conditions are going to continue to ebb and flow, and we are just happy that we have people at the table to help us with that planning and making sure that we're creating a safe environment, because we, like you, want our kiddos back in our buildings and experiencing school the way that we hope.
Well, you have teased a really great state of the schools that's going to come next month. When I
Yeah.
hear some of this, I know that we're going to have a loaded agenda for State of the Schools next
will.
month. So,
Yep.
well, Dr. Holt, thank you so much for being
course.
with us today, and best of luck in the new role. And just really glad you could be with us this morning.
Thank you, Matt.
You bet. You bet. Well, as we look forward to working with Dr. Holt and others in the future on so many things that are important to our transition and our recovery as a community, it's very, very valuable, important, and timely for us to hear that voice of business as we consider what the future holds and what it looks like and how we get ready for it to tackle that. That inspiration that Commissioner Dixon was talking about is joining us right now, because our chairman of the Chamber Board of Directors, Robin Robeson, is with us. Robin, thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Well, good morning, Matt, and good morning to everyone watching. I'll be glad when we can get back together in person, but really glad we have this opportunity to be at BKD today.
Yeah, so thankful.
Great
right?
facility.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we always. I think we always have appreciated this outstanding company, but you just appreciate even more when you see all the different things that they bring to the table in a time like this.
Yeah, I can tell you I don't know that I felt any safer being in a building than I do being here at BKD, and the way that they're protecting their employees and all the wonderful things they're doing to make sure that everyone's safe. So was so glad I got to be here this morning.
That's great. Well, I know our volunteer leaders and staff team and everybody involved at the Chamber of Commerce has been very focused on meeting those urgent needs of members related to the impact of coronavirus, the recovery process. We've also been working in a parallel way on all of the strategic areas of focus that are a part of the mission of the Chamber, that the board works so hard to advance and to increase economic opportunities and just really foster a climate in which businesses can thrive. So, Robin, I know you have some great things to report in that regard, so I'd love to just hear what's on your mind today.
Yeah, well, you know that the Chamber staff has been working really, really hard over the last several weeks to collect feedback from the businesses, our members, about their needs during the pandemic and also their hopes for reopening. So there have been a lot of conversations going on, phone conversations, email, lots of communication. But they've been in constant contact, staff has, with the city, leaders from the city, the county, and the health department about how we can safely reopen and restart the economy while working to keep people safe and secure. And even while we've been pivoting to these unusual needs during this unprecedented time, the Chamber has still been working to advocate for the priorities that our members have set. Items that we hope that will continue to make Springfield really a great place to do business and grow jobs. So you're going to hear a little bit more about some of our advocacy efforts in a few minutes from our Vice Chair of Public Affairs, John Oakey Thomas, but I wanted to just touch on a few things, a few specific things that at the state level have passed the state legislature during this session. So the first thing that I'm very excited about, anyone that knows me knows how passionately I feel about the enabling legislation for tourism. So enabling legislation for tourism and early childhood education were really huge wins for our community. And what that's going to allow us to do is allow Springfield voters to decide for themselves whether tourism drivers like a convention center or tournament grade sports facilities, whether it's something that we want here. And so Greene County voters will be able to decide whether we want to also fund early childhood education in our communities. And I think that's very exciting. We really see both of these items as critical to the continued development of the Springfield region, and I am just very hopeful that Governor Parson will sign this legislation so that we can get on with moving forward. The state also passed a workforce development bill that allows for expanded licensing reciprocity in Missouri, and as well as reciprocity for military spouses and licensure for apprenticeships. So these bills will help help in our efforts to recruit talent to our state and to fill in-demand jobs in our region. And I know that this was particularly something that was important for our friends at Fort Leonard Wood,
Yes.
for military spouses to be able to have that licensing reciprocity. So I was super excited and pleased to see that get done. Work also continues in economic development, as you know. Really, that was evidenced on Tuesday by the announcement that Kraft Heinz will be investing $48 million in its manufacturing operations. This is the third major capital investment in the facility over the last several years, demonstrating really the company's commitment to the Springfield region and to their 950 employees that work here. So $48 million investment, that's real money. So really, really excited to hear that on Tuesday.
I
So
would just, as you said, just love to see the commitment to the area. I mean, the game in competing for, especially manufacturing, it's tight. I mean, it's a very competitive process. So seeing that repeated investment, what a great encouragement.
Yes, and going to be lots of opportunities for other companies to step up and do the same thing. So very excited. We glad when we're back in person. I miss all of our members. I miss seeing people in person, but I know that we're doing the right thing for the community, and we've just got to stay the course and do the right things to protect our citizens and make sure that we come out of this in an even better position, which you know I'm very optimistic about that.
Right. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, go off script, but I want to brag on you and on Guarantee Bank a little bit too, because one of the things to me that's been inspiring about this whole difficult time is, you know, it's specifically a novel coronavirus, so we don't have 50 years of history to know how it works or whatever else. And so we have certain regulations, certain restrictions, most of them temporary, but some pretty significant. And at the same time, businesses have innovated. They've gotten creative, and in most cases, businesses are doing much more than any regulation or restriction requires to keep their customers and employees safe. And I think Guarantee Bank is a great shining example of that. Would you talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. Well, our number one priority are our employees and keeping them safe. And also keeping our customers safe. But we have been able to facilitate our customer needs in ways that we could have never really even imagined before. We always want to be able to meet with people in person, but that's not always possible. And so we have pivoted, and our employees have innovated and found ways to meet those customer needs that, like I said, we could have never even imagined before. But keeping our employees safe is our number one priority, and we want to make sure that our bank is well prepared to come back after this as well. Right. So we're doing all we can to protect employees, our customers, and just the community as a whole. Because as you've heard me say before, Matt, you know, a bank is just a representative of the community that it's in. And a bank can only do well if the community does well. And so we want the community to do well. Yeah. And that's what we're really hoping for, and that's what we're optimistic about.
Well, thanks for all you're doing to make sure that happens, Robin. Not only, obviously, Guarantee Bank, but with the Chamber of Commerce and in leadership and in ways that you probably never could have imagined, but I'm so thankful for.
It's been my pleasure.
You bet. Thank you so much. Well, as Robin mentioned, we do get the opportunity now to also hear from our Vice Chair of Public Affairs at the Chamber of Commerce, John Oakey Thomas. He was unable to be with us today, but he did pre-record an update about advocacy efforts on behalf of the business community at the local level. So let's take a look now at that update.
We have a number of updates related to advocacy work the Chamber has been doing on behalf of members and the larger business community during this time. The Chamber has represented the voice of business with City Council. We have engaged business leaders in support of the recent Costco investment and announcement on behalf of small businesses through CARES Act funding, the Ideas Commons expansion, and the job retention and investment opportunity with Kraft Foods that Robin referenced. I actually got to attend City Council myself and express how important it is to invest in existing jobs within our community. This is a challenging time, but there's still important, positive economic development news to celebrate. The Chamber has been engaged and supportive. We also continue to provide resources to members based on their current needs. In the last couple of weeks, the Public Affairs team has hosted 2 informative calls for the business community. One featured legal experts from Kutak Rock, who provided some guidance on liability for employers, and a significant area of interest as we reopen our economy and our businesses. The second featured the statewide perspective on Missouri's road to economic recovery. If you missed those two events, you can find recordings of the calls on the Chamber's website. Finally, we have an exciting announcement. On July 29th, the Chamber will be hosting our first in-person event since the onset of this pandemic. We are excited to welcome Missouri's Governor Mike Parson for the annual State of the State address. So stay tuned for more information. On a personal note, I want to thank you all for your membership and your continued support to the Chamber. It is important that we all continue to make sure that we support the Chamber so that the Chamber can in turn support our businesses. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, John Okie Thomas, for that report and for your leadership on public affairs, and to all of our leaders working to convey the voice of business in the policymaking process. Many business owners and managers and representatives have taken the opportunity to do that and to engage in the process on behalf of business. Representing you, making sure that you have input in decisions that impact you is a top priority of your Chamber of Commerce, and we could not do it without your personal engagement and involvement. And as John mentioned, our first in-person event since the pandemic started will be the State of the State event with Governor Mike Parson on July 29th. Saw the governor just yesterday, and he's excited to be here. We've consulted with the health department and will be taking every precaution to protect the health of attendees. So please visit the calendar on our website for details at springfieldchamber.com. Just go to the calendar. You can see the details of the July 29th State of the State program with Governor Mike Parson here in Springfield. Before we say goodbye this morning, I'd like to take one more opportunity to thank the incredible team here at BKD for their technical support and for allowing us to use this incredible studio today. And a final thank you also to our series presenting sponsor, BKD Wealth Advisors, for your continued support of this program. Another shout out to our friends at Ozark Empire Fairgrounds and Event Center for their support of the Chamber and community as well. And we are also, as I referenced just a little while ago, planning to have our next Good Morning Springfield event on August 6th in person for pass holders. That will be the State of the Schools presentation, and it'll be chock full of important information for our community, so you can stay tuned for additional details. And I just want to take just a moment to thank you for your continued perseverance and work in our community to make things work, to make your business work, to create opportunities for people to have jobs, to support their families in so many ways. And especially this weekend, as we go into a very special holiday weekend where we will reflect on the founding of our nation and on the sacrifices that secured our independence. Let us, if only for a day, as a community and I hope as a nation, lay down those things that divide us, even if only for a short time, so that we can set our minds for a moment on what unites us as Americans. We are united by our shared noble goal, that all men and women and children are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words that were penned 244 years ago represent a noble and aspirational goal. They were aspirational at the time they were written, and even today we can hold those goals up high. We can be thankful that it is a goal of our country, and we can work hard to advance that goal for those for whom it is still incomplete. And at the same time, we have an opportunity to secure that promise, for all of us, and that isn't the case everywhere. So you are doing that, and I want to thank you for doing that. You're doing that by your work, by your sacrifice, by working in your businesses, by volunteering in our community the way you do and the way you have during this crisis and before this crisis, as I'm sure you will long after this crisis is over. I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for being a part of the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Springfield.